Welcome, everyone. Today, I invite you to join me on a powerful journey, one that can transform your home into a sanctuary of peace, protection, and divine grace. Now, you might be wondering, how can something as simple as salt bring such profound change? In the next few moments, I'll show you how this humble element, something we all have in our kitchens, can be used to bless and consecrate your home, turning every room into a space filled with God's love and security. But this isn't just about sprinkling salt. It's about reclaiming your home as a sacred place where God's presence can dwell, where peace reigns, and where protection is invited. Just like the ancient traditions have taught us, this act is a declaration of faith that has the power to heal, protect, and transform. So, if you're ready to discover how you can invite God's peace into your life in a way you've never thought possible, stay with me. By the end of this video, you'll know how to turn your home into a true sanctuary, one prayer, one pinch of salt at a time. Let's dive in. In the hustle and bustle of daily life, it's easy to forget the true sanctity of the space we call home. But have you ever paused to consider that your home isn't just a building, it's a sacred sanctuary, a place where God's presence can dwell, where peace can reign, and where love can flourish? This is the profound truth we must remember. Our homes are meant to be holy spaces. In his teachings, Pope Leo XIV often emphasized the idea that we are stewards of the spaces we inhabit, entrusted not only with caring for our physical homes, but with creating environments where God's Spirit can fill every corner. Reclaiming your home as a sacred space is not just about a change in decor, it's about opening your heart and your home to divine presence, inviting God's love and peace to permeate every room, every corner, every space where you live and breathe. So, how do we begin this holy transformation? The answer lies in something as simple, yet powerful, as salt. Salt, throughout Scripture and history, is a symbol of covenant, purity, and preservation. In the Old Testament, it was used to seal covenants, to purify, and to symbolize God's enduring promise. Just as salt was sprinkled on offerings, making them sacred and acceptable to God, so too can we sprinkle salt in our homes, transforming ordinary spaces into holy ground. Salt is not just a physical element. It carries a deep spiritual meaning. It's an act of faith, a prayer for God's protection, healing, and presence. As Pope Leo XIV articulated, this process is not a superstition, but a sacred ritual rooted in tradition. It's an invitation to God to sanctify our surroundings. When you sprinkle salt in the corners of your home, on your doorsteps, and even under your bed, you're doing more than just performing a ritual. You're making a visible declaration that your home belongs to God. It's a statement that your home is a place of peace, a place of prayer, a place where God's light and love reign supreme. Imagine walking through the threshold of your front door and feeling God's protection immediately wash over you. Picture a home where, instead of stress and chaos, the presence of the Holy Spirit brings peace to every room. This transformation begins with a simple act of faith, sprinkling salt, invoking God's divine protection and peace. Pope Leo XIV's teachings remind us that this act, though seemingly small, has profound spiritual implications. By consecrating our homes with salt, we are choosing to align our personal spaces with God's divine order. We're telling the world through this simple, sacred gesture that our homes are not of this world. They belong to God. It's easy to overlook the sacredness of our homes in the everyday rush, but the act of consecrating our spaces with salt is a way to return our homes to their true purpose. It's a powerful, intentional step toward making your home a sanctuary, a place where God's peace reigns and where His love is felt in every corner. So, as you begin this practice, know that you are not just adding salt to your floors or doorways. You are making your home a temple, a sacred place where God's Spirit is welcomed, His protection is invoked, and His peace reigns. This is a profound act of faith, one that will ripple through every part of your life, transforming not just your physical space, but your heart as well. As Pope Leo XIV encouraged, let us all be mindful stewards of our homes, creating spaces that honor God, where His presence is cherished, and where His peace flows freely. This journey of sanctification begins with a single step, and that step can be as simple as a pinch of salt. But in faith, it becomes so much more. Miriam's story is a beautiful testament to the power of faith and the simple, yet profound, acts of consecration that can restore peace and bring healing to even the most fractured of families. It's a story that reminds us how, through small gestures and acts of deep faith, we can invite God's grace into the most challenging parts of our lives. Not long ago, Miriam, a grandmother with weathered hands and a heart full of wisdom, faced a season of intense discord within her family. There were harsh words, unspoken hurts, and silent resentments that clouded the air in her home. Despite the love they shared, the atmosphere had grown tense, and peace seemed a distant hope. The emotional walls built over time were like shadows that blocked out the light of God's love, leaving her family struggling to reconnect. Yet, Miriam, deeply rooted in her faith, knew that the answer to her family's turmoil wasn't found in words alone. It was found in prayer, humility, and a simple act that had been practiced by generations before her: the consecration of her home with salt. Guided by the wisdom passed down from her own mother, Miriam took a small bowl of salt and stood at the threshold of her front door. As she sprinkled a pinch of salt across the entrance, she whispered a prayer. "Lord, let this home be a place of peace. Heal the wounds within, and restore us to the harmony you intended for us." It wasn't just a symbolic gesture. It was an act of faith, a way to invite God's protection, healing, and presence into the very foundation of her home. But Miriam didn't stop there. With each room, she walked with salt in hand, carefully placing it in the corners, under the beds, along the window sills, and even in the kitchen, those sacred places where families gather to break bread and share love. In each of these spaces, she prayed aloud, asking God to purify her home, to heal hidden wounds, and to rekindle the love that had dimmed over time. By the end of that week, something remarkable began to happen. Miriam's family, who had once been bound by anger and division, began to feel the shift. Laughter, once stifled by years of unspoken pain, began to fill the rooms. Tears were shed, but this time, they were tears of reconciliation, of healing, and of joy. Miriam's home, once filled with the weight of unresolved conflict, had become a sanctuary of God's love. Her story is a powerful reminder that even the most humble acts, when done with faith, can open the door to God's transformative power. The simple act of sprinkling salt, paired with heartfelt prayer, invited the Holy Spirit into Miriam's home, weaving peace into the very fabric of her family. What seemed like a small ritual became the catalyst for a profound spiritual renewal. This is what Pope Leo XIV teaches us: that faith in action, especially in the small, everyday moments, can bring about incredible transformation. Miriam's act of consecrating her home was not about the salt itself. It was about the faith that she poured into each prayer and the intentionality behind every step. Salt, in this sense, is not a mere physical element. It becomes a sacramental tool that connects us to God's promises and His covenant with us. In Miriam's story, we see how God honors even the simplest offerings when they are made with a trusting heart. Through faith, salt became not just a seasoning for food, but a symbol of purification, protection, and a channel for God's peace to flow freely into her home. For those of us facing moments of division, pain, or struggle, Miriam's story offers hope. It reminds us that we too can take simple, intentional steps to invite God's presence into the spaces that need His touch. Whether it's a sprinkle of salt, a heartfelt prayer, or a moment of quiet reflection, we can create sacred spaces in our homes where God's peace reigns, where healing begins, and where love is restored. Just as Pope Leo XIV urged us, we are called to create holy sanctuaries in our homes. Through small acts of faith like Miriam's, we open the door for God's transformative power to enter, filling our homes with the peace, love, and protection that He alone can provide. Our homes are much more than just physical structures. They are sacred spaces, divinely appointed places where God's presence should dwell, where His blessings can flow freely, and where peace can be woven into the fabric of our everyday lives. Yet, in the busyness of life, we often forget the deeper significance of the homes we occupy. They are not merely shelters from the outside world. They are temples, holy ground, where we are called to experience God's love and protection on a daily basis. Pope Leo XIV often reminded us that the home is meant to be a place where God's Spirit is welcomed, where His peace is invited to reign, and where His love forms the foundation of every relationship. In the Bible, homes are repeatedly shown as sacred places where God's presence is not only acknowledged but deeply felt. In the Old Testament, God instructed His people to mark their homes with signs of His covenant. The practice of consecrating our homes, making them holy and set apart for God's use, is as ancient as the Scriptures themselves. The act of consecrating our homes with salt is deeply rooted in biblical tradition. Salt, in the Scriptures, holds a profound spiritual significance. It was used in the Old Testament as a symbol of God's covenant, a preservative to protect against decay, and a purifier to cleanse what was impure. Salt was sprinkled on offerings to make them holy, as we see in Leviticus 2 verse 13, where God commands, "Season all your grain offerings with salt." The act of sprinkling salt in our homes is, therefore, not just a ritual, it is a way to declare that our homes belong to God, and that we invite His presence into every space. In 2 Chronicles 13 verse 5, salt is used to describe the eternal covenant between God and His people. The Lord, the God of Israel, made a covenant of salt with David and his descendants forever. This covenant of salt is a reminder of God's promises, His protection, His provision, and His eternal love. By using salt to consecrate our homes, we align ourselves with this ancient tradition, inviting God's covenant to be alive and active in our lives. But what does it mean to truly make our homes sacred spaces? It means recognizing that our homes are more than just places where we live, they are places where God's glory can be made manifest. When we consecrate our homes, we are declaring that each room, each corner, each door, and even the very ground beneath our feet belongs to God. Our homes are not just physical spaces, they are spiritual ones where God's presence should be invited to dwell. Just as God Himself filled the temple in the Old Testament with His glory, we are called to fill our homes with His presence. In 1 Corinthians 3 verse 16, we are reminded, "Do you not know that you are God's temple and that God's Spirit dwells in you?" This verse speaks not just to our individual bodies, but to our homes as well. When we invite God into our homes, we open the door for His Spirit to dwell among us, to heal, to protect, and to sanctify our lives. Consecrating our homes with salt is a way of saying, "God, I welcome your presence here. I invite you to make this place holy." It's an act of faith that aligns us with the divine order. As Pope Leo XIV often said, it is through small acts of devotion like sprinkling salt and offering prayers that we transform the mundane into the sacred. The salt we sprinkle is not just a physical substance. It becomes a sacramental sign of God's enduring covenant with us. It is through such rituals that we declare our homes to be places of refuge, peace, and love, a true temple for God's presence. This is not a mere symbolic act, but one that brings real spiritual blessings. When we consecrate our homes with salt, we are inviting God's protection to cover every threshold, every corner, and every family member. As we sprinkle salt, we invite His peace to reign over the chaos of daily life, His healing to restore broken relationships, and His light to shine in the darkest corners of our hearts and homes. In our world today, where distractions and troubles often threaten to erode the peace of our homes, consecrating our homes with salt reminds us that we can reclaim this sacred space. We can make our homes places where God's presence is known and felt, where His blessings flow freely, and where His love is evident in every interaction. Just as Pope Leo XIV emphasized, this is not about superstition, it is about faith in action. Salt is simply the visible sign of an invisible grace. By using it to consecrate our homes, we align ourselves with God's eternal promises. We are actively inviting Him to make our homes His dwelling place. And in doing so, we create a sanctuary for ourselves and our families, a place where we can experience His peace and protection on a daily basis. As we reflect on this, let us remember that the act of consecrating our homes is not just for us, but for all who enter. Our homes become beacons of God's love, places where others can encounter His peace. This simple act of sprinkling salt becomes a profound declaration that our homes are temples, sanctuaries, and holy spaces set apart for God's glory. The front door of a home is not merely a physical entryway, it is a spiritual gateway, a threshold that marks the boundary between the outside world and the sacred space of your home. In the Bible, thresholds are often associated with significant spiritual moments. From the Passover in Egypt, where the blood of the lamb marked the doorposts and ensured protection for the Israelites, to the many times Jesus entered homes and brought healing, the door serves as a place where God's protection and blessings can be invoked. Pope Leo XIV spoke often about the importance of the thresholds of our lives, the doors, the entryways, the places where we invite guests, strangers, and family alike into the sacred space of our homes. The front door is the first point of contact between the world and the sacred, and as such, it deserves our attention, our prayer, and our consecration. By sanctifying this space, we make a powerful declaration: this home belongs to God. When we sprinkle salt at the front door, we are not merely performing a ritual. We are praying for divine protection to cover our home. We are asking God to guard the entryway against any forces that may seek to disturb the peace within. As Psalm 91 verse 1 assures, "He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty." Through this simple act of sprinkling salt, we are aligning ourselves with God's divine protection, affirming that no harm, no discord, and no evil will enter through our threshold. Salt at the front door is a prayer of faith, a spiritual boundary marker, and a way to ask God to bless the space as a place of peace and security. It is a declaration of authority. By inviting God into this space, we are saying that our home is set apart for Him, that it is a place where His love and grace are welcome, where His presence is acknowledged, and where His protection reigns. In Deuteronomy 6 verse 9, we are instructed to inscribe God's words on the doorposts of our homes, marking the threshold as a reminder of His faithfulness. By sprinkling salt at the front door, we are continuing this sacred tradition, invoking God's covenant over the entrance to our homes. The salt is a symbol of purity, preservation, and purification. It is a sign that we are setting this space apart for God's use, that we are making it a place where His glory can dwell. Imagine for a moment that every time you step over the threshold of your home, you feel the weight of God's protection and peace surrounding you. By consecrating the front door with salt, this is the very effect you're inviting into your home. The front door is not just a point of entry, it is a spiritual gateway that, when sanctified with prayer and salt, becomes a place where God's angels are invited to stand guard, as promised in Psalm 91 verse 11. "For He will command His angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways." Pope Leo XIV often emphasized that small acts of faith, like the consecration of the front door, have profound spiritual implications. This simple act transforms the door from a physical entryway into a sacred space, a threshold where God's protection and blessings can be felt every time someone enters or leaves. It becomes a place where the peace of Christ rests, where His presence is welcomed, and where His Spirit reigns. To consecrate your front door, take a moment to stand before it with a heart full of prayer. Hold a pinch of salt in your hand, and as you sprinkle it across the threshold, offer a prayer like this: "Lord, I dedicate this home to You. I ask that You protect this space from all harm. Let only love, peace, and truth pass through this doorway. May Your angels stand guard, and may Your presence fill every corner of this home. I claim Your promise of protection, as Psalm 91 verse 1 says, that we shall dwell in the shelter of the Most High and rest in the shadow of the Almighty. Let this door be a symbol of Your presence and a reminder that this home is Yours." This prayer is not just words, it is a declaration of faith that invites God into the very heart of your home. It is an act of trust, a way of affirming that your home is a place where God reigns, where His protection is sought, and where His peace is desired. Through this act of consecration, we are aligning ourselves with God's will, creating a boundary that shields our home from the chaos and negativity of the world outside. We are inviting divine protection over our lives, our families, and all who enter our home, affirming that this sacred space is under God's care. In a world full of distractions and dangers, consecrating the front door is a profound spiritual act of protection and faith. It is a way to ensure that your home remains a place of refuge, a sanctuary where God's presence is felt, and His love flows freely. By setting apart this threshold, you are making a sacred commitment to live in alignment with God's will, trusting that He will guide and protect all who enter through it. The corners of our homes are often overlooked, those quiet, sometimes hidden spaces where dust settles, where the past lingers, and where forgotten memories take refuge. But these corners hold deep significance in the spiritual life of our homes. They are not just physical spaces, they are also emotional and spiritual sanctuaries that carry the weight of our history, our joys, and our pains. It is in these corners that unresolved issues, silent fears, and unhealed wounds can take root, casting shadows over our sense of peace. As Pope Leo XIV often emphasized, the home is meant to be a place of holiness, a sanctuary where God's healing power can flow freely. This means that even the most hidden parts of our homes, the places we often overlook, deserve to be consecrated and made holy. When we consecrate these corners with salt, we are inviting God's healing into the places that have been weighed down by past hurts, misunderstandings, or fears. In the Bible, corners are not just physical spaces, they symbolize the unseen parts of our lives, the parts that we may avoid or neglect. Psalm 139 verse 12 beautifully expresses how God sees even the hidden things. Even the darkness is not dark to you. The night is as bright as the day. This reminds us that nothing in our lives, not even the deepest wounds or fears, is hidden from God's sight. By placing salt in the corners of our homes, we are inviting God's light to shine into the darkest corners of our hearts and our homes, purifying them and filling them with His peace. Salt, as Pope Leo XIV taught, is not just a physical element, it is a sacramental sign of God's covenant with His people. It represents purification, preservation, and healing. When we place salt in the corners of our home, we are offering those spaces to God. We are acknowledging that these places, though perhaps forgotten or neglected, are part of the sacred whole of our home, and that God's presence can bring healing and peace to even the most hidden, unresolved parts of our lives. By sprinkling salt in these corners, we make a powerful spiritual statement. We are inviting God to heal what has been broken. We are asking Him to redeem the parts of our home and of our hearts that have been touched by pain, neglect, or fear. This act of consecration is not just a physical one. It is a spiritual declaration that we trust God's ability to heal the wounds that may be hidden from the world but are known to Him. Imagine walking through your home, knowing that the corners, the very places that may have carried tension or sadness, are now consecrated. The salt, combined with prayer, transforms these spaces from places of darkness into areas of light. The act of consecrating the corners of your home with salt is an invitation for God to purify those spaces, to bring His healing touch into areas that may have been overlooked or avoided. Just as Jesus healed the sick and comforted the brokenhearted, so too does He come to heal the unspoken hurts in our lives, making our homes places of wholeness. In practical terms, consecrating the corners of your home with salt can be done in a quiet, reflective moment. Take a small bowl of salt, and as you move to each corner, sprinkle a pinch into the space. As you do so, say a prayer like this: Lord, I invite your healing presence into this corner of my home. I ask you to purify this space and all the memories it holds. Heal the wounds, restore peace, and bring your light into this hidden place. I trust in your love and your ability to heal all that is broken, known and unknown, seen and unseen. Let your peace reign here, and may this corner reflect your divine presence. This prayer isn't just a ritual, it's a deep act of faith. It's an invitation for God to enter the places where we may feel vulnerable or broken, asking Him to bring His healing touch. The salt is a symbol of God's ability to preserve us, to purify us, and to renew us, even in the most hidden areas of our lives. Pope Leo XIV often spoke of the importance of making every part of our homes sacred, even the areas we might think are insignificant. The corners of our homes are symbolic of the hidden spaces in our hearts, and by consecrating these corners with salt, we are taking a step of faith toward healing and restoration. This act transforms not just the physical space, but also the spiritual atmosphere of our homes. It turns corners of darkness into places of divine light, peace, and protection. As you continue this practice in your own home, know that you are not only purifying your physical space, but also inviting God's transformative power into the deepest parts of your life. Whether it's old wounds, lingering fears, or unresolved conflicts, God's healing can reach into every corner, restoring what has been broken and bringing new life where there was once pain. Let us remember, as Pope Leo XIV taught, that faith is not just about the grand gestures, it is about the small, deliberate acts of devotion that invite God's presence into every part of our lives. By consecrating the corners of our homes with salt, we are making a bold and powerful statement that every corner, every room, and every heart in our home is dedicated to God's love, healing, and peace. The kitchen is often considered the heart of the home, a place where food is prepared, where families gather, and where daily life unfolds. Yet, The significance of the kitchen goes far beyond its practical role as a space for cooking. In the spiritual life, the kitchen symbolizes provision, sustenance, and unity. It is where the basic needs of the body are met, but it can also become a sacred space where God's abundant provision is acknowledged and where the family comes together in harmony. Pope Leo XIV spoke frequently about the importance of transforming ordinary spaces into holy spaces, where every part of life, no matter how seemingly mundane, can be consecrated to God. The kitchen is a prime example of this. In its simplicity, it is a place where God's love and provision are made tangible, where the raw ingredients of life are transformed into meals that nourish the body and soul. Consecrating the kitchen with salt is an act of faith that invites God's abundant blessings into this central space. Salt, as we've seen throughout the Bible, is a symbol of purification and preservation, but it is also deeply tied to God's covenant of provision. When we consecrate our kitchen with salt, we are not just asking for physical sustenance, but we are also inviting God's peace, abundance, and presence into this sacred space. In the Bible, we see numerous examples of how God provided for his people through the blessing of food. From the manna in the wilderness to the multiplication of loaves and fish by Jesus, God has always used food as a way to bless and sustain his people. The kitchen, then, is not simply a place where meals are prepared. It is a place where God's provision is continually celebrated. By consecrating this space with salt, we acknowledge that every meal is a gift from God and that we are stewards of his blessings. Just as Jesus performed miracles in the midst of ordinary moments, turning water into wine at the wedding in Cana, multiplying loaves and fishes to feed the multitudes, our kitchens can become spaces where miracles happen, where the simple act of preparing a meal transforms into an offering of love and communion. The act of placing salt in the kitchen is a prayer that every meal prepared within its walls will be an offering of love, a reflection of God's generosity and care for his people. Consider the example of Martha and Mary, two sisters who welcomed Jesus into their home in the village of Bethany. While Martha was busy preparing a meal, Mary chose to sit at Jesus' feet, listening to his words. Jesus, however, did not rebuke Martha for preparing the meal. Instead, he affirmed that both serving in the kitchen and listening to his word are sacred acts. The kitchen, then, is not just a space for physical nourishment, but it can also become a place of spiritual renewal, a place where love and service are intertwined. Consecrating the kitchen with salt is a way of transforming the act of preparing meals into a sacred ministry. It is a prayer that God will bless the work done in the kitchen, that he will multiply the provisions, and that the meals shared there will bring unity and peace to the family. This simple act of sprinkling salt is a declaration that the kitchen is not just a place for sustenance, but a place for communion, a place where the family is nourished not just in body, but in spirit as well. In the context of the family, the kitchen is often the place where people gather to share not just food, but stories, laughter, and moments of connection. It is a place where relationships are nourished and where family bonds are strengthened. When we consecrate this space, we are also asking God to bless our relationships, to bring healing where there is division, and to deepen the love shared between family members. A meal shared in a consecrated kitchen becomes a sacred act of communion, a moment where the family can experience the presence of God in the simplest of things. Whether it's a quick breakfast, a dinner prepared with care, or a holiday feast, every meal becomes a reflection of God's love, a tangible sign of his provision, and an opportunity to cultivate peace and unity within the home. To consecrate your kitchen, take a small bowl of salt and, as you move around the space, sprinkle it with intention and prayer. As you do so, say a prayer like this: Lord, I dedicate this kitchen to you. I invite your presence into this space, where food is prepared, where families gather, and where love is shared. Bless this place with your abundance, and let every meal prepared here be a reflection of your provision and your love. May the meals we share here bring peace, unity, and joy to our family. Let this kitchen be a place of communion, where we experience not only the nourishment of our bodies, but the nourishment of our souls. May we always be grateful for your gifts, and may we share them with love and generosity. Amen. This prayer is not just a ritual. It is a heartfelt invitation for God to enter into the daily rhythms of your home, to bless every meal, and to transform your kitchen into a place where his presence is felt. Through this simple act of consecration, we are reminded that the everyday tasks of life, including preparing and sharing meals, can be acts of profound spiritual significance. As Pope Leo XIV reminded us, the sacred is not just found in grand, formal rituals, it is found in the smallest, simplest acts of faith. Consecrating the kitchen with salt invites God to transform the ordinary into the extraordinary, to make the preparation and sharing of food a holy act, a moment where His love and provision are felt in tangible ways. In doing so, the kitchen becomes more than just a space for cooking. It becomes a sacred altar, a place where the family is nourished in both body and spirit. The bathroom, often considered a private and intimate space in our homes, is much more than a place for physical cleansing. In the spiritual life, the bathroom serves as a sacred space of renewal and purification, both for the body and the soul. It is where we wash away the weariness and dirt of the day, where we refresh ourselves, and where, if we approach it with intention, we can encounter God's healing power. Pope Leo XIV frequently spoke of how even the most mundane spaces in our lives can become sacred sanctuaries when consecrated with faith. The bathroom is one such space that can be transformed into a place of spiritual renewal, where the act of physical cleansing mirrors the deeper cleansing that God desires for our hearts. Just as we wash away dirt and impurities from our bodies, we can ask God to purify us from the hidden stains of sin, fear, and emotional burdens. In the Old Testament, purification rites played a significant role in the spiritual life of the people of Israel. These rites were often accompanied by the use of water, salt, and other sacred elements, symbolizing God's cleansing and renewal. In Leviticus 14, for example, the priest uses water and blood in the purification process to restore someone to wholeness after a period of ritual impurity. Salt, in these rituals, served as a powerful symbol of purification, preservation, and healing. By sprinkling salt in the bathroom, we align ourselves with these ancient purification rites, asking God to cleanse not just our bodies, but our hearts, minds, and spirits as well. This is an invitation for God's healing presence to enter into this private space, renewing us physically and spiritually. Just as water cleanses our skin, we pray that God's grace will cleanse our souls, washing away the burdens of the day, the anxieties that weigh on us, and the emotional scars we may carry. The act of consecrating the bathroom with salt is not only a prayer for purification, but also for healing. In a world filled with distractions, pressures, and struggles, the bathroom often becomes a place where we face ourselves in solitude, where we confront our vulnerability and sometimes our fears. It is in this quiet space that we can invite God's healing touch to restore us, to heal the wounds that we carry, whether they are physical, emotional, or spiritual. Pope Leo XIV often emphasized the importance of recognizing the spiritual significance of everyday rituals. Just as washing the body is necessary for physical health, so too is spiritual cleansing necessary for our well-being. When we consecrate our bathroom with salt, we are inviting God's purifying presence into this hidden space, allowing His healing power to work in every area of our lives, even in the parts of ourselves that we may not readily share with others. The bathroom is also a place where we prepare ourselves for the day ahead or unwind from the challenges of the day. It is a space where we can find renewal and peace. By consecrating this space with salt, we turn it into a holy place where we can seek God's renewal every time we step in. It becomes a place where we can pause for a moment of prayer, where the act of washing becomes a symbol of spiritual cleansing. To consecrate your bathroom, take a small bowl of salt, and as you move around the space, sprinkle it with intention and prayer. As you do so, say a prayer like this: Lord, I invite your purifying presence into this space. Just as water cleanses the body, I ask you to cleanse my heart, my mind, and my spirit. Heal the wounds that I carry and renew me in your grace. I offer this space to you as a place of renewal and healing. Let it be a sanctuary where I can find peace and restoration, where I can be refreshed physically and spiritually. May your healing touch fill this room, and may it be a place where I encounter your mercy and grace every day. Amen. This prayer is not just a ritual, but a deep act of faith, one that acknowledges the spiritual significance of the act of cleansing. It is a way of inviting God into a private space of renewal, where the waters of grace can flow, washing away not only the dirt of the body, but also the stains of the soul. It is a reminder that God's presence can fill even the smallest and most intimate spaces, bringing peace, healing, and restoration. In the tradition of Pope Leo XIV, we are reminded that faith is not just about grand, public acts of devotion, but also about consecrating the ordinary moments and spaces of our lives. The bathroom, with its symbolism of cleansing, is one such space that can be transformed into a sanctuary of renewal, where every act of physical purification becomes a prayer for spiritual renewal. As you continue this practice of consecration, Know that every time you step into the bathroom, you are inviting God's purifying presence into your life. This simple act of sprinkling salt becomes a profound spiritual gesture, one that aligns you with the ancient purification rites of the Bible and opens the door for God's healing touch to enter every corner of your life. Through this consecration, the bathroom becomes a sacred space, a place where you can experience God's love, His healing, and His grace every day. The bed, a place where we seek rest and respite from the stresses of the day, is more than just a physical space for sleep. It is a sanctuary, a place where we surrender ourselves to God's care, where we find peace in the stillness of the night, and where our bodies and souls are renewed through rest. Yet, for many, sleep is not always peaceful. Anxiety, fear, and unsettled emotions can disrupt our rest, turning the bed into a battleground of thoughts and worries. This is where the sacred act of consecrating the space under the bed with salt can play a powerful role in transforming it into a place of divine care, peace, and protection. Pope Leo XIV spoke often about how every part of our homes should reflect God's presence. Our beds, too, are meant to be places where God's peace reigns. Just as God promised rest to His people in Psalm 23, saying, "He makes me lie down in green pastures," the bed should be a place where we experience God's presence, His comfort, and His protection. Yet, sleep can often be disturbed by the weight of the day's burdens, nightmares, or fears of the unknown. In these moments, the bed can be transformed into a sanctuary of peace by inviting God's divine care and the protection of His angels. Sprinkling salt under the bed is a simple but profound act of spiritual protection and peace. Salt, as we know, is a symbol of purification and preservation. It represents the covenant between God and His people, a sign of His enduring promise to care for us and to keep us safe. In the Bible, salt was used in various rituals to purify and protect, and by placing salt under the bed, we are symbolically inviting God's protection over our rest. This is not just about physical protection, but also spiritual protection, a prayer that God will guard our hearts and minds as we sleep, ensuring that our rest is peaceful and undisturbed. In Psalm 91 verse 11, we are assured that He will command His angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. By placing salt under the bed, we are invoking this promise, asking God to send His angels to stand watch over us as we sleep. The act of sprinkling salt becomes a prayer for divine protection that surrounds us during the vulnerable hours of the night. Just as the angels guarded the Israelites during their journey through the wilderness, so too do we ask for the angels to guard our rest, keeping us safe from any spiritual, emotional, or physical harm. The bed is also a place where we lay down our physical and emotional burdens at the end of the day. It is where we go to find rest, but it can also be a place where our fears, regrets, and unresolved anxieties weigh heavily on us. By consecrating the space under the bed with salt, we are inviting God's healing touch to cleanse us of these burdens. Salt purifies, and as we sprinkle it under the bed, we are praying for God to purify our minds, our hearts, and our spirits, allowing us to rest in the peace that only He can provide. Just as Jesus calmed the storm with a word, we invite Him to calm the storms within our hearts as we lie down to sleep. The bed, which may have once been a place of restlessness or fear, is transformed into a sanctuary of peace, a place where we can fully surrender ourselves to God's care and trust in His protection. To consecrate the space under your bed, take a moment to reflect in quiet prayer. Stand by the bed, holding a small bowl of salt, and as you sprinkle it under the bed, say a prayer like this: Lord, I place this bed and my rest into your loving hands. I invite your peace to fill this space. Let your angels stand watch over me as I sleep, guarding my body, my mind, and my spirit. I ask you to purify this space and my heart, removing all fear, anxiety, and restlessness. May my sleep be peaceful and undisturbed, and may I wake refreshed and renewed in your grace. I trust in your divine care and protection. Amen. This prayer is not just a ritual, it is an act of trust in God's ability to guard and protect us during our sleep. It is a declaration that our bed, our place of rest, is sacred ground, a space where we invite God's presence and the protection of His angels. As we consecrate this space, we are reminded that our rest is not just a physical necessity, it is a gift from God, a time for Him to refresh us, to heal us, and to renew our strength. In the teachings of Pope Leo XIV, we are reminded that every part of our lives is sacred, including the simple act of sleep. By consecrating the space under the bed with salt, we are recognizing that even in our most vulnerable moments when we are asleep and unaware, God is present, watching over us and keeping us safe. Sleep becomes an act of faith, a time when we can surrender our worries to God and rest in His peace. Through this act of consecration, the bed is transformed from a mere place of rest into a holy space, a sanctuary where God's protection and peace are experienced. As we sleep, we are cradled in His love, and our hearts and minds are renewed, ready to face the challenges of the new day. The windowsill, often overlooked, serves as more than just a practical feature in our homes. It is a symbolic threshold, a space where the inside of our home meets the outside world. The windowsill is not just a place for flowers or curtains. It is a portal for light, for life, and for the reflection of God's presence in our homes. Just as the windows allow natural light to pour into our living spaces, they also symbolize our openness to God's light and grace entering our hearts and homes. Pope Leo XIV often spoke about how every part of our home can be consecrated to God, turning even the most mundane spaces into holy sanctuaries. The windowsill, with its role as a boundary between the private interior of the home and the public world outside, is a powerful place to invite God's presence and to transform our homes into beacons of hope and light. When we sprinkle salt on our windowsills, we are inviting God's light to shine into our home, dispelling the darkness and transforming the space into one where His presence is not only felt but visible to the outside world. Salt, as a symbol of purification and preservation, is a sacramental tool that calls upon God's covenant with us. Just as salt is used to preserve food, it symbolizes God's protection and His enduring presence. By placing salt on the windowsill, we are symbolically inviting His divine light to enter every corner of our home and to radiate outward into the world. This simple act is a prayer that God's presence will not be hidden, but will be visible to all who pass by. Jesus taught us in Matthew 5 verses 14 to 16, "You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." The window, as a space that connects the private to the public, symbolizes this very call to be a light in the world, to let God's love and presence shine through us, visible to all. Sprinkling salt on the windowsill is not merely a physical act, it is a spiritual declaration. It is a prayer that our home, marked by God's presence, will become a place of light, hope, and peace, a refuge not only for those inside but a beacon for those outside. It is a prayer that the light of God will shine out from our homes, drawing others to the love, peace, and truth that only He can provide. Just as salt enhances the flavor of food, the salt on the windowsill becomes a visible sign of God's transformative presence, bringing flavor to our homes and the lives of those around us. In Psalm 27 verse 1, we are reminded that the Lord is my light and my salvation. By inviting God's light into our homes, we are affirming that His presence is the guiding force in our lives. The light that shines through the windows of our homes can be a symbol of God's guiding light in our hearts, drawing us toward Him and inviting others to see the goodness of His work in our lives. When the windowsill is consecrated with salt, it becomes not just a space of physical light, but a spiritual beacon that radiates God's love, peace, and healing to the world outside. Moreover, the act of consecrating the windowsill with salt is also a prayer for protection. Just as the Israelites were protected during the Passover by the blood on the doorposts, our windowsills can serve as a reminder of God's protective presence in our homes. As we invite His light to shine through the windows, we also ask for His divine protection, both for our families and for all who visit. The salt on the windowsill becomes a sign of God's covering and protection, guarding the home from harm and ensuring that His peace rests upon all who enter. To consecrate your windowsills, Take a moment to stand before each window with a small bowl of salt. As you sprinkle the salt, offer this prayer. Lord, I invite your light into this home. Let your presence shine through every window, dispelling any darkness and bringing peace and hope. May this home be a beacon of your love and grace to all who see it. I ask that you protect this space and all who dwell within it, surrounding us with your angels and guarding us from all harm. May your light shine brightly through these windows, drawing others to your love and to your truth. Let this home be a place where your presence is visible and where your peace reigns. Amen. This prayer is a declaration that our homes are not simply private places of refuge, but sacred spaces where God's light can shine to the world. By consecrating the window sills, we are opening the doors of our hearts and homes to God's transformative presence, making our homes places where His love is evident to all who see it. Pope Leo XIV often reminded us that faith is not just an internal reality, but something that is meant to be visible to the world. The salt on the window sills becomes a visible sign of our faith that is meant to shine brightly for others to see. When we consecrate our windows, we are ensuring that our homes are not just places where we feel God's peace, but places where that peace is visible to everyone, drawing others to the light of Christ. Through the simple act of placing salt on the window sills, we are declaring that our homes are beacons of God's light and love, a testimony to the world of the peace and hope we find in Him. It is a profound way to invite God's presence into our lives and to ensure that His light shines brightly from within our homes to the world outside. As we come to the end of this reflection, I encourage you to take what you've learned and begin a powerful, transformative practice in your own life: the consecration of your home and the spaces within it. Just as the early Christians set apart their homes as places where God's presence was welcomed and cherished, we too are called to make our homes sanctuaries, places where God's love, peace, and protection reign. The act of consecrating our homes is not just a ritual, it is an act of faith. When we sprinkle salt, place prayers in every corner, and invite God into every threshold, we are declaring that our homes are not simply structures made of wood and stone, they are temples, holy spaces where God is welcomed, where His protection is sought, and where His peace is experienced. This is an ongoing journey of aligning our homes with God's will, and in doing so, we make each space a sacred sanctuary that reflects His love and grace. As Pope Leo XIV taught, the home is the foundation of the family, and it is in the home that we are called to live out our faith, to cultivate peace, and to honor God in every act, every conversation, and every interaction. This practice of consecration is a way of saying, Lord, I give you my home, my family, and all that happens within these walls. May your light shine through this place, bringing peace, healing, and love into every corner. By continuing this sacred tradition, we are not just creating an atmosphere of holiness within our homes. We are also inviting God's protection. Every prayer, every sprinkling of salt, and every act of faith strengthens the spiritual covering over our families. It is a declaration of trust in God's promise to keep us safe, to guard us from harm, and to fill our homes with His presence. We are choosing to make our homes a refuge, a place of rest, a place of healing, and a place of sanctuary in a world that is often full of chaos and uncertainty. The world today can be a challenging place, filled with distractions, stress, and many forces that can disrupt the peace of our homes. Yet, as we consecrate our homes, we are choosing to create an environment where God's peace can flourish, where love binds us together, and where His Spirit is welcome. Every act of consecration, no matter how small, is a step towards reclaiming our homes as places where God's reign is acknowledged and celebrated. Whether it's through the salt we sprinkle at the threshold, the corners we bless, or the prayers we say, these actions invite God's presence in tangible ways. Moreover, by making our homes places where God's peace reigns, we are creating spaces where those who enter are touched by that same peace. Our homes become beacons of hope, places where others can experience God's love and healing. Just as salt is used to preserve and purify, we, too, become channels of God's grace, offering a taste of His goodness to those who enter. By consecrating our homes, We not only invite God's blessings upon ourselves, but also create a place where others can encounter His presence and be drawn to His love. Let us not forget that consecrating our homes is an act of worship. It's a way of acknowledging that everything we have, our family, our home, our belongings, are gifts from God. By consecrating our spaces, we are honoring Him with what He has entrusted to us. Every room, every corner, every doorway becomes an altar of praise, a place where we continually offer our lives back to God in thanksgiving for His provision and His protection. So, I urge you to take up this practice of consecrating your home and spaces. Let it become a living act of faith that goes beyond words and rituals. As you pray and bless each space, know that you are setting apart your home as a sanctuary, inviting God's peace, love, and protection to rest upon every person who enters. This simple act of faith, repeated regularly, will transform your home into a place of true refuge, a place where God's presence is deeply felt, His protection is sure, and His love flows freely. Let your home be a reflection of God's kingdom, a place where His light shines brightly, where His peace reigns, and where His love is made visible to all who enter. Just as the early Christians consecrated their homes to be places of worship and prayer, so too are we called to do the same today. May your home be a sanctuary of divine grace, a beacon of hope, and a testament to God's faithfulness and love. May it be a place where you and your family find peace, comfort, and renewal, and may it be a place where others can see the light of Christ shining brightly in your lives.